Welcome back to the 10th installment of God Laughs at Dirty Jokes book reading. Before I begin today, I want to tell you about a dream I had last week and what happened after. So I'm looking at my notes here on my phone because I sent the stuff about the dream to my mom in a text because it was about her. So the dream, in the dream, it's hard to remember all the details, but my mom and I seem to have been praying for animals or trying to help with animal rescues. And that would make some sense because the night before I had the dream, I made a donation to a dog charity online. And so that's probably where it kind of got started from. And that's kind of something that she or I might do anyway, to pray for animals generally. So in the dream, there was a moment where my mom seemed to even be praying to maybe even bring like an animal or an animal spirit to someone else to help them. But it's not clear who that was for. So I know that's a little confusing. But then someone unseen in the dream said to my mom, yes, like about summoning animal spirits, but you still summon the horse, which was for you. Okay, so I know that doesn't totally make sense out of context. But again, we're praying for animals. My mom is maybe praying for like animal spirits to come and help people as well. And then someone says, like an omniscient kind of person says, yes, but you still summon the horse, which was for you. Then the very next day, my mom does not know about this dream yet. She stopped by my house while I wasn't there to drop off a book she'd ordered for me 2 weeks ago for my birthday that took a long time to arrive. And guess what the book was? The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. So the very next day after I had the dream in which about the animals, praying for animal spirits to help. And this person specifically mentions the horse as being for my mother. She gives me a book with a prominent horse on the cover. So that's kind of how my dream life works. Sometimes, as far as being like a little synchronistic or psychic, it's not maybe always a direct line to something, but it's how can you deny the connection there between the dream and the book that happens that is gifted after. So I thought that was kind of neat, and I wanted to share it because those are the kinds of things I like to write about too in book chapters, and I'll probably include it in the second book that I'm working on as well. But as far as book one, we're on chapter 18, which is called I'll Be With You at 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And this is in Mom chapter 2. So here we go. My mom's birthday is on Christmas. Her name is Carol. Yep, Christmas Carol. That's the joke. I've only missed one of her birthdays, and she wasn't too happy about it either. It was the winter of 1997, the same year as my tickling incident. My friend Kate was living in New York City at the corner of 20th and 2nd. I stayed with her for a week over Christmas, sleeping on an air mattress in her cozy studio apartment. Air mattresses aren't even vaguely comfortable, but cheapskates can't be choosers. Kate eventually let me share the bed platonically. I complained my way in. Gramercy Park was Kate's first Manhattan apartment after living in San Francisco several years. Many of my friends left Buffalo in their 20s, but I didn't. I thought I might end up in New York too, but the urge passed. I feel like I was meant to be from here and stay for now, like I was born at the right time. Over the next decade, Kate also had apartments in Greenwich Village on St. Mark's Place, the Lower East Side, and Hell's Kitchen, smallest studio apartment ever, criminal for the price of rent, before eventually moving to Brooklyn with her husband Chris to start a family. Gramercy Park was my favorite, and I enjoyed eating at the Cosmo Diner on 2nd Avenue, which looked like it was out of Seinfeld. Maybe that's how they thought of Kramer's first name, because he was Cosmo Kramer, if you remember. Kate and I went ice skating at the tiny rink beneath Rockefeller Center on Christmas morning. It's a glamorous story that sounds better than the reality, though we had fun. As with most activities in New York, You have to wait in line a long time to skate a short while on a modestly sized rink with many other people on deeply grooved ice that forces inadvertent directional changes. It occurred to me not long after that everything in New York City is about time and space. Of course, that this is the late 90s and pre-COVID, but if you go to a club show, there's almost always a concrete start and end time because there'll be more than one performance that evening. Unlike Buffalo, you don't just get to hang around afterward. They shove you onto the street once your show is over because they have to get the next audience in right away. Once seated, there's little room to spread out. Depending on the mood, this is often charming as one is nearly forced into conversation with strangers. Excuse me. At the B.B. King Blues Club in Manhattan, the chairs are packed so tightly that they can only be closer if they were permeable and occupied part of the same space at the same time molecularly. Perhaps one day someone will try so hard to cram two chairs into the exact same spot that they'll succeed and force two parallel universes to intersect and overlap like string theory on drugs. A spatial anomaly will develop like in the last episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, growing in size as you go backwards in time, leading to the end of humanity unless Picard embraces the paradox. I love that episode. It's the perfect analogy for embracing the mysterious unknown. But I digress. New York is stimulating in its wild cultural diversity and innumerable, intelligent, attractive people working in many different fields, though there's also self-importance and pretense to be found. Perhaps a New York attitude must be cultivated in order to handle a cramped New York life? No. Pretense is pretense wherever you go. I also read that New York has more millionaires than any city in the country, 660,000 of them. That's more than Chicago, Boston, and D.C. combined. Crazy. Who are these people? 1 week prior to Christmas, while I was in Manhattan, my mom had a dream about her long-deceased mother. My grandma Bella came to Mom in her white waitress uniform, which she had worn her entire life. Mom said her face was lovely and her arms chubby and pink, unlike the frail woman who died in 1990. She did not appear to speak, but Mom clearly heard her say, "I will be with you at Christmas Eve. I will be with you on Christmas Eve at 4 o'clock. The time was specific. This is like when I felt the name Justin on Tickling Day. It felt silent and heard simultaneously. Telepathic, basically." Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh my gosh. Here we go again. I can kind of feel the spring allergies like right around the corner. So that's my mom's dream. Later in the day, my mom called her sister, my Auntie Anna, in Pennsylvania to tell her about the dream. And a Eucharistic minister told Mom she would be serving communion at Mass on Christmas Eve at exactly 4 p.m. She planned to place flowers on the altar for their mom and dad, and suggested Mom stop at church in the morning and light a candle for them, as they'd done as children for their favorite saints. A 7-day candle would burn until Christmas. After dinner, Mom recorded the dream in her journal. The last word she wrote for the entry was "believe," all in capital letters. As she climbed into bed that evening, she began to feel a bit creepy. Our first dog, Toby, was the only other one in the house. Mom looked around the room, and so did Toby, perhaps sensing her thoughts. When he lowered his head, so did she, and they both fell asleep. Now, I didn't write this in the chapter, but my mom, thinks she may have felt a presence, or the presence perhaps of her mother. And it's said that animals in particular can see spirits pretty much directly. And I kind of believe that now. Anyway, back to the writing here. Mom lit candles at church for her parents the next morning on her way to work. It was her last day before Christmas break, and her coworkers were exchanging gifts. The first present she opened was a small garden stone with the word "believe" written across it, all in caps. Synchronicity. The next day, Mom was more emotional about her mother's visit in the dream. She thought how great it would be if all 4 of her sisters joined in too. When the mail arrived, she received a birthday gift from her sister Kay, a whitened nightgown and pair of gold earrings. Later that evening, she and my brother went to a holiday play called Greetings at Buffalo's now-defunct Equity Theater. Studio Arena. In the play, an angel visited a family via the body of their handicapped son. The young man could not communicate in reality, but when the angel inhabited his body, he spoke with wisdom and insight. His family thought it was a miracle that he should speak on Christmas Eve, and his message was love. In the final scene, the boy is in a room alone when an unplugged Christmas tree lights up on its own. They enjoyed the play very much. It made them teary-eyed, which made them laugh at themselves, and then they cried some more into their tissues. On the 22nd of December, when Mom checked her mail, there was a flyer from a neighbor with a nativity scene printed on the top, informing her that the block was going to light luminary candle bags on Christmas Eve at 4 p.m. There it is again. 4 white paper bags filled with sand would be distributed to each house. When she showed my brother the note, she started to cry again because she felt it was the manifestation of her mom's message. She loved the symbolism of welcoming the Christ child, her words, with a public display of faith. Mom still thinks like a Catholic, even though we're non-denominational. On her way to the mall, Mom stopped at the home of the luminary organizer. Her name was Kathy, and Mom offered to help. She also shared the line from her dream about her mom coming to visit on Christmas Eve at 4 o'clock, which gave Kathy the chills. Her dog, Willie, was jumping all over Mom. Kathy realized Mom had been the one to help her son chase down and catch Willie when he escaped the day before Halloween. Mom followed him in her car over several blocks and across a major highway. She knew if she didn't succeed, he'd likely be clipped by a car. With the help of another woman, the 3 of them finally caught Willie, and she drove the exhausted boy and dog back home. Kathy took Mom's hand to thank her again. Later, Mom remembered that her mother had died the day before Halloween, another small synchronistic sign. On Christmas Eve, Mom helped her neighbors and their children prepare 300 bags with candles. It was cold and sunny outside. At 4 p.m., Mom lit her bags, and she, Steve, and Toby, the dog, walked the block from end to end, marveling at the beauty of the lights in front of more than 70 houses. She said it looked like a runway, and she imagined it as a brightly lit path for Christ, welcoming him into their hearts and homes. She had thought Christmas would be sad because I was away in New York, but her mom's gift was a wonderful diversion. When I got back, she told me I'm never allowed to be away on Christmas again, and I haven't been. Much later that evening, she sat bundled on her porch steps. The candles were burning brightly. She sang Christmas carols by herself to her mom and embraced her memory. When she went to bed in her new nightgown from her sister, she told herself the arms she wrapped around her were actually her mother's. After Christmas, Mom's sister Anne, the Eucharist minister, told her that the angel atop her tree would not light. Neither would the new one she bought. But on December 23rd, when she went downstairs, the angel was lit and blinking. Mom's sister Rosie, who had no knowledge of Mom's dream, called Anne on Christmas Eve at 4 o'clock. Her sister Joni told Mom that the strand of angel lights on her tree hadn't been working either, but came on while everyone was opening their gifts. This is all the sisters. They felt Grandma Bella had walked through the room and played a small trick. As siblings age and start their own families, and their own kids have kids, it is easy to drift apart. Mom believes the event was meant for all of the sisters to feel the presence of her mom, to be reminded of the connectivity of family, and that they're all a part of something bigger and universal too. So that's chapter 18. Okay, as usual, itchy nose. Yeah, definitely the edge of the seasonal change. I can feel it, the congestion already in my forehead. Okay, chapter 19 is called Green Chair. And the opening paragraph here is italicized because I explain. Mom wrote the following piece for a local newspaper for Father's Day 2013, though they chopped it down and left out important parts which had been restored. I like her conciseness as I sometimes suffer from verbosity. Maybe the wisest people in the world evolve towards near silence when all has been reconciled in mind and soul. So this is the Mom Guest chapter called Green Chair. Here we go. Do you have a green chair? I'm seeing a green chair, a light green chair. I told the psychic that I did not have a green chair, nor could I remember anyone who did. Remember, again, this is my mom speaking, okay? Am I making it obvious enough? Okay. Do you have a green chair? I'm seeing a green chair, a light green chair. I told the psychic that I did not have a green chair, nor could I remember anyone who did. That evening, I decided to look through old photo albums. In the last picture I had taken of my dad on Christmas Eve 1972, he was sitting in a light green chair. He had a sheepish smile on his face, as if he knew I was searching him out. He was holding my 2-year-old son, which would be me. He died the following March. He was a very quiet man with a heavy Italian accent. At age 14, he arrived in America, basically alone. He taught himself to read and write. He read every one of my Compton's encyclopedias. He gave me nickels from his worn leather change purse whenever I asked. I only asked him if my mother had already said no. We had a large 3-car garage in our backyard, but no one owned a car. 2 of the garages held tools, paint, stray cats, and stacks of newspapers. One day, I set an old mousetrap out there. 2 days later, my dad asked me if I had done this. When I said yes, he simply said, "Don't ever do that again." He never said more than he had to. My father worked for the New York Central Railroad, starting as a water boy and learning cement masonry. During snowstorms, he would be called to work clearing frozen train switches. For days, I would watch out the window for the bus he might be on. I worried about him. We did not have a car, and he never used the phone, so I just had to wait. Eventually, days later, he would come home, and I was grateful. On Sundays, we would take the train to Dunkirk, where my mother's family lived. The Buffalo terminal held fond memories. We loved the big Buffalo and the cold descent down the steep walkway to the tracks. We went to Washington, D.C., and then on to New York City one weekend. My dad found a very inexpensive hotel with one bulb hanging in the center of the ceiling and a common bathroom. I slept with my sister and mother while Dad had his own room. I thought it was a great adventure, but my mother wasn't so happy. I loved the bracelet I bought with the dangling New York City letters on it. My friends at school could not believe I had been to the big city. My reserved father gave himself a 65th birthday party. It was a great time dancing and eating in the banquet hall. He was such a private man that I could never quite figure out why he wanted that party. I am so glad he did. Every once in a while, Dad would gather my mother up in his arms and dance with her in the kitchen. It always warmed my heart to see them laughing. My father surprised my mother with a wedding ring set on one of their late life anniversaries. It replaced the simple white gold band she had worn for years. There were dark moments in our house as well. I recall a time when I heard the word separation. I have no idea why I knew that meant someone would be leaving the house, but I decided right then and there I would be going with my father. He needed someone to take care of him. I was about 10. He never left. My dad never liked dogs, but he loved Porky. Porky was a huge shaggy dog belonging to one of my sisters. She was probably his favorite daughter, actually. They had a special bond which just existed. When he was sick, my sister would know, even though she was hundreds of miles away. That would be my mom's sister, Anne, who you heard about in the chapter before. Once, my other sister and I tried to run away. We heard my dad say, "If you leave, don't ever come back." We looked at each other and walked back upstairs. A psychologist once told me that my father was actually saying, "If I can do it, live with your mother. So can you. Be strong. Come back." At the end of his life, my dad spent a lot of time in the hospital. On one visit, I noticed his normally well-groomed fingernails had become neglected. I took his hands in mine, washed them, cleaned his nails, and sat with him for a very long time. He told me how good his hands felt. When I kissed him goodbye, I said, "I love you, Daddy." He replied, "I love you too, honey." I was 25, and it was the first and last time my dad said those words to me. Fathers are such powerful people. Happy Father's Day to the men who hold our hearts in the palm of their hands. Green chair. Yep, so Grandpa's green chair. That's my mom's guest chapter. I'm going to try to see if she'll give me one for book number 2 as well. I think I can squeeze in one more chapter of this book because this one looks pretty short, I think. Let's go for it. So this would be chapter 20, and it's called "Oh Reiki, You're So Fine, You Blow My Mind." So if you can see that, "Oh Reiki, You're So Fine, You Blow My Mind," meaning, Reiki, the Reiki treatment. My mom started having Reiki attunements after a major surgery. She's had 4 sessions since January 2013 and really likes it. I don't know much about Reiki, so this is neither an endorsement nor critique. I'm in favor of whatever makes people feel better. Like mediums, doctors, musicians, presidents, and financial advisors, I'm sure Reiki practitioners vary greatly in quality and insight. My mom wrote Steve an email about going. He wrote back, "Reiki, Reiki, you're so fine. Reiki, Reiki, you blow my mind." Haha. Fucking hilarious. So Steve. Rose, the Reiki lady's studio, is chilly, so Mom lies beneath a blanket with her eyes closed. Rose hovers her hands above Mom's head, neck, arms, sides, knees, and feet in succession. She employs a gentle touch, not a massage, which Mom finds relaxing. There are lit candles and music playing. In her mind's eye, Rose said that she sees her clients as stick people with shiny silver rings around their arms and legs. The rings are fluid and soft, like the ribbons gymnastics use in floor routines. Silver is the default color she sees, the most common, but my mom is the only one she sees in gold. This makes me think of how Justin appears to Steve, always in his gold necklace, the purest metal, difficult to replicate, perhaps impossible, by low vibration spirits. One of Rose's clients appeared to her surrounded in tiles as if she was being smothered. Rose confirmed the woman was feeling uptight and stressed. Another woman appeared in crystal, as in a person who is crystal clear, a walking metaphor. Mom sees different colors while her eyes are closed, like the swirls you get when you rub your eyes a little while. It's a single color at a time, and Rose said that this was common. Rose and my mom have experienced synchronized colors, most often purple, which Mom says is the most sensitive of colors and reveals psychic power and attunement with self. Perhaps the colors are energies being released from the body or related to one's aura. Now, of course, purple is supposed to be the top crown chakra. That's supposed to be your connection and your line back to God. So people who do tend to see colors in their third eye, maybe with your eyes closed, it sometimes follows the chakras, the energy centers of the body. It's like violet, indigo, blue for your throat, green for your heart, yellow, orange, and red. I think there's 7. I'm not a chakra expert, but I do believe that those energy centers are real and that they do correlate to those colors. So, my mom was seeing the colors while she was getting her Reiki. My friend Amisha in Toronto involuntarily sees colored auras around others, varying from light, friendly colors to dark and menacing. The colors seem to match her sense of their spiritual state. Makes sense. People like Amisha can detect auras much the same way infrared cameras capture people in the dark from radiant body heat. Perhaps the colors in an aura are not just of the individual, but of spiritual forces which we attract with our attitudes and feelings. Maybe some truth to that too. About a week after Mom's last session, I saw metallic green and purple sunburst colors in my mind's eye while lying in bed. At first, the colors were small fuzzy dots of light like distant suns. Well, for a few minutes' time, they kept getting closer until they eventually filled my entire field of vision. It was cool. They seemed organic and fluid like clouds, perhaps alive. Were they spirits? I wondered if the colors were a synchronistic echo of my mom's experiences. I hadn't really seen colors before, not as sustained and bright as these. At the end of a session, Rose envisions a connecting line coming up through the top of a client's head, through her ascending upward, presumably to God. She told Mom that her connection was exceedingly bright compared to most people, as though she were lit up like a Christmas tree. This reminded me of Mom's connection to her mother with the luminary bags on Christmas Eve and her Christmas birthday. The metaphor of God and spirits as light is appropriate. In the vast darkness of space, the light of stars is relatively rare, but intensely concentrated, visible to us from millions and billions of light years away. Rose believes that the more spiritual her client, the better Reiki works. This makes sense. Someone who's more open is likely to be more positively affected. That doesn't mean people can't become more receptive and open over time, though this requires a willingness to be vulnerable and uncertain and to risk embarrassment in exchange for growth. Yep, that's true. In the days that follow each session, Mom feels more energetic, alive, and aware. This is how I often feel during and after a musical performance or session at the recording studio. Focused emotional energy is tapped, released, and shared. Energy cycles around the space through me and to the other musicians and studio personnel. I ride the positive wave after a performance or studio session for quite a while. If a few days in a row are like that, I get pretty high, and I'm more prolific. Mom finds Rose interesting in many ways, partly because as a practitioner of a healing art, she doesn't seem to connect all the dots in her own life, which can happen very easily. We can easily make the mistake of believing that someone who spends a lot of time on spiritual matters would be introspective and insightfully balanced, but it's not always the case. I definitely get out of whack, no doubt about that. We don't always see ourselves objectively. Rose is intrigued by my mom because a gold stick person has never appeared, nor with the brightness of her spiritual wire channeling up to God. This tickles Mom. Mom looked up some Reiki stuff online. A gold aura is apparently the color of enlightenment and divine protection. When seen within the aura, it says the person is being guided by their highest good. It is divine guidance, protection, wisdom, inner knowledge, spiritual mind, intuitive thinker. That makes sense. Mom's next session was on a day she felt stressed because of digestive problems with her two dogs, Mike and Nellie. Rose felt intense heat on Mom's right chest and said she'd had pain there all day, which dissipated after the visit. When Rose got to her left foot, she told Mom again she saw soft gold rings around it, and her leg and foot were bending backwards like rubber. Mom looked nearly alien to her in her mind's eye. Rose thinks it means that she is flexible and moving forward. Okay. For some reason, Mom's bendable leg reminded me of our experience at the Mexican restaurant when the room fell away from us and seemed illusory. I wrote her an email speculating that since matter is vibrational and we may all be illusions of solidity, perhaps her vibration is higher than before and closer to the spiritual realm. During their second last visit, Rose told Mom about her own post-cancer diet. Rose keeps track of her food intake in exacting detail, trying to avoid any potential trigger for a recurrence of cancer, which she's dealt with for decades. Mom felt Rose's intensity might not be helping her overall health. Funny enough, that's also one of my worries about my mom. And I could apply it to myself too. The fixation and fear could be affecting her energy. Rose said she thinks Mom is further ahead than she is in the life process. Mom didn't know if she could be as obsessive about her diet as Rose. Regarding her own health post-surgery, Mom thought, I'm doing the best I can. After their session, Rose said, when I was touching your right side, I was thinking about our food conversation when I heard it in my head, I'm doing the best that I can. Rose heard Mom's thought at the exact moment that she'd had it. That's what I was saying in my head, Mom told her. So that connectivity, grows, especially when you are with someone in an intimate experience like Reiki. Again, our thoughts are energies like any other. They leave our bodies when we have them, traveling outward into the universe. The deeply attuned, the sensitives can perhaps both project and receive ideas telepathically. I believe everybody can, really, but people go through periods of greater connectivity and lesser connectivity, and then some people probably are born with a little more natural aptitude and they can develop it too further. But everyone's thoughts are energy, so certainly they can be felt by anyone else too as energy. Recently, I read about scientific experiments in the U.S. and South Korea employing non-invasive electrodes to read brainwaves in rats. Researchers remotely connected a rat brain and a human brain with external sensors, a brain-to-brain interface to pick up their brain waves. The goal was for the human subject to try to make the rat wag its tail from a separate location. When the human projected the thought of the simple motor action to the rat, it was compelled to do so. Consider the interface as an amplification of an existing signal. It seems like we're close to discovering powerful means of nonverbal communication and perhaps even collective simultaneous thought, like a hive mind, with implications both good and bad. Lab experiments are beginning to reinforce spiritual ideas. There are many ramifications. The sovereignty of the human mind will be challenged. We will need to consider a legal framework for the privacy of our thoughts, but the greater point is that telepathy is already possible without technological assistance. When you think about someone you haven't had any contact with in a number of years, you're probably receiving a signal from them or sending one out. Many times I've suddenly thought of someone and then get a message within hours or days. Again, I see no coincidence, only evidence of connectivity and oneness with others in a meaningful, intelligent universe. More proof of more than this. Woo! So that's the end of chapter 20. There you have it. Chapter 21 is the first chapter about cats and how I got them. And yep, so is chapter 22. And chapter 23 too. So we got some cat chapters coming up. Thanks so much for watching, for listening. I appreciate it. And hang in there. It seems like the vaccines are starting to do their thing. It's hard to be patient, especially in the winter, and we can't, be outside. We're feeling confined. I'm feeling confined. I'm definitely starting to get that winter itch. Like, okay, enough of this. But hopefully we can just hang in there just a little bit longer so that things are safer. And then summer will be so great with the windows open again. So, take care of yourselves. Talk to you soon. Comments, questions, always welcome. Thank you. Bye.